Hi, my name is Forbes and I'm a software developer at Mavenoid, and I also contribute to open source, mainly in JavaScript and TypeScript. I'd like to talk to you today about my journey with open source and how you can make sure that you don't miss out on contributing to the next big open source project before it's a big open source project. I'd like to start by taking you back to April 2013. I was just finishing up my computer science degree and I was also working on a small web app. While working on that web app, I discovered a project that at the time was called Jade. It's since been renamed to Pug, and it was a really useful project that had exactly the features I needed for the website I was working on. But it had lots of rough edges, many bugs and missing features, and it wasn't really super actively maintained. I wanted to figure out how I could help, how I could make this project better, partly or mainly really because I wanted it to be better for what I was using it for. And I began by reviewing pull requests and triaging issues, because lots of those issues were actually stale, had not been updated in a long time, and many of them were no longer relevant. TJ, who was the original creator of Pug, very quickly gave me contributor access and started directing people who had queries to me rather than answering directly. I've been maintaining Pug ever since. There have been some challenges with maintaining Pug, chiefly the volume of pull requests and the volume of issues. There's a shortage of time from senior engineers to review those pull requests and triage the issues. And I'm just one person, and the volume that comes in makes it very difficult. I think that's often the biggest drain on maintainer time, is the reviewing of all of that incoming contribution, really. So this gives me two tips for contributing to open source that I'd like to share with you at this point. The first is keep your pull requests small and focused. It's 100 times faster to review 10 small pull requests than one large pull request. And this holds true pretty much no matter how small you go. I've never had multiple small pull requests from a single contributor and gone, I wish they'd just submitted these as one large one. But I frequently had one large pull request and gone, you know what, that bit of it, if it had been submitted separately, I could just merge straight away, but I need to give feedback on this other part, and that slows down the whole process and clogs things up. The second tip I'd like to share for contributing to open source projects is to help with triaging issues and pull requests before you submit new ones. The thing that the maintainers of open source projects are most struggling with typically in terms of time is reviewing things, not writing code, not writing features. So help with the bit that is difficult. The nice thing about Pug though is there were some problems I never had to worry about. I never had to worry about marketing Pug because it already had an established and growing user base when I inherited it. I also didn't have to worry too much about logos, websites, documentation, partly because some of this already existed, but also because it had this large established user base that had lots of people who were willing to help out and contribute in these ways. It even had people who translated the documentation to other languages and have written books about the subject. I'd now like to fast forward 4 years to November 2017. I was just starting a new project at this point called @Databases, which is a Node.js client for SQL databases like Postgres, MySQL, SQLite, and so on. I started it because I was frustrated with the existing solutions that really fell into one of two camps. You either had ORM-like libraries, where you had to learn a whole new language and API for interacting with the database, or you had, on the other hand, the low-level libraries that just took a raw string for the SQL query and made it far too easy to accidentally create SQL injection vulnerabilities. @Databases lets you write SQL queries without fear of SQL injection. It's an awesome project that I'm really excited about and have been since I first created it. The user base is growing and includes at least 6 companies that I'm specifically aware of, although I'm sure there are lots of companies using it that I'm not aware of. Unfortunately, 5 of those companies that I'm aware of are companies that I have worked for at some point or that I'm currently working for. And me working at companies and introducing the open source project isn't a scalable way to grow the project. In spite of me starting the project in 2017, I didn't start writing documentation until December 2018, a full year after I started the project. And I didn't build a proper website until April 2021, and that's this year, just about a month ago at the time I'm recording this talk. And there's lots of reasons for that, but it really stems down to this simple thing of I love writing code, I love solving problems, and I love using good software. And I do hate re-implementing features that I've implemented in the past because the code for those features is in some private repository that I no longer have access to. I really hate waste. I'm good at writing code, but I don't love sales, and I don't love marketing, and I don't love writing documentation, and I'm not that good at those things either. I want people to use my projects, but I don't know how to properly market my project so that people find it. I think my projects will be helpful for people, but I don't really know how to explain that to them and how to convince people that my projects are right for them. I know my documentation could be better, but I don't know how to structure it so that it's easy for people to find what they need. And I also don't know which parts of my project are hardest for newcomers to understand. I am learning. I'm learning about marketing and sales, partly to support my startup, Rolling Versions, which is a company that is a product that helps open source maintainers and businesses automate their release process and helps to improve the communication around the release process. But there are other people out there who are better than I am at marketing and sales and writing documentation. What I found with these two projects is that help was available for Pug because there was an established user base that included some people who had those skills. But on the other hand, I didn't really need that help for Pug because the project already existed, it was well established, it had some documentation already, and it had an established user base. On the other hand, without databases, I haven't been able to draw on other people for that help. I've either had to do it myself or hire people at my own expense. At databases, desperately needed that help, and it was hard to come by. So this brings me to my final calls to action. The first of which is offer help with smaller projects. They will appreciate it more than the large established projects. Secondly, you can offer time to help with marketing, design, and community building, especially for new projects. So if you work for a company that has people in those roles, that has people doing marketing, has people doing sales, then a great way to contribute to open source is to find a way to get those people helping out with new open source projects. It doesn't necessarily have to mean doing the work. It can just mean supporting open source maintainers and helping them to learn about these subjects. But if you can do the work, if you can help directly, that's even better. If you're going to contribute to an open source project as an engineer, help by triaging existing issues and pull requests before you go ahead and create new pull requests. If your company starts using a new open source project, let the maintainer know. A short message from a company or from an individual at a company, that says, I'm using this project of yours and it's great and I love it. That always makes my day, and it helps to keep me motivated in the face of most of the communication I get being when people are having problems. It's great to have that communication when things are going well as well. You can find many of these open source projects by looking at existing maintainers of projects that you like and seeing what else they're working on, but equally seeing what else they're promoting, seeing what other people are using. And you may also already be using smaller open source projects. So when you look at what projects are we using and you see Babel and Webpack and some other library that most people have never heard of, rather than jumping straight to going, oh, we should contribute back to Babel and Webpack and so on, look at those small projects and see if you can contribute to those as well, because they will appreciate it more. They need the help more. They need the help more. I'm now available to take any questions you have.